What's happening, everyone? Kyra and Ben back again. I was playing with the mic off air and definitely think I broke it. So sorry, Ben. We are back this week doing Oscar films. This week we are doing Poor Things. Now, this movie was really neck and neck with Oppenheimer, I would say, for winning a lot of the awards that it did. It really swept a lot of like production design, costume design. Emma Stone won Best Actress. It was nominated for Best Director, Best Picture. This movie was very prolific this Oscar season. Ben, tell me a little bit about your history with it.
So I knew nothing about it. I was watching television, and then the commercial for it came on, and it was talking about, like a dead person reanimated and brought to life, and I was like, oh, this is just like Frankenstein, which I'm a big horror fan, so like I was like, oh, this ought to be interesting. And then I watched it and I was like, wow, this is kind of pornographic.
Yes, okay, there is a lot of sex in this movie. Absolutely. This movie is really interesting. It's actually based off of a book by the same name by a man named Alistair Gray. It is a Scottish book, so originally the story is set in Scotland, which I thought is cool. I'm pretty sure like it feels like it is set in Scotland in here. A little bit more ambiguous. We know that she goes to Alexandria. We know that she travels a little bit. She goes to Paris. She does always come back to kind of take care of. There's some interesting things. So, again, this is a movie podcast, not a book podcast. I did start reading the book, have not finished. It's incredibly dense. One thing that I want to note that I think is super interesting is that in the book, it's actually told from the point of view of McCandles, which is played by Rami Youssef. And in the movie, he kind of is sidelined. Like, he doesn't really have this, like, super incredible role.
No, he's, like, in it for a few minutes, and then he's gone.
And then he comes back.
Then he comes back, but like he's just like a side piece. Like,
yeah.
If you had not said that, I wouldn't have known that he was like a main character in the book, because in the movie he's like a side piece.
Yeah. So in the book, it really goes about how him and Goodwin are really good friends, actually, and how they work together, and how they're really side by side in this. And then of course it really does go once Bella starts maintaining and learning more autonomy, how she kind of grows in that sense. And I'm really excited to talk about this parts of the film. This is another collaboration between Emma Stone and director Yorgos Lanthimos. She was also nominated for her role in The Favorite that she did with him. They are longtime collaborators, and I know that they have a bunch of other projects lined up together. And I love when directors and actors kind of work together. We saw this earlier this Oscar season with Christopher Nolan and Cillian Murphy. We also saw this with like Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese. So I think it was a year of the best friends, and I love to see that.
Yeah. I think when they're together and they like know each other, what they want on set, I think it shows in the acting.
Oh, absolutely. And I think in a role like this, like Emma Stone really has to like trust her director. It's a very interesting role. We're going to talk about, if you've listened to the podcast before, one of my favorite things, Born Sexy Yesterday. This movie is that theme. We are going to talk about it. But I'm really excited. So let's dive in. So it follows Goodwin Baxter. He is a doctor. He's also a professor. And he has a student, McCandles. And he says, McCandles, I need your help with a special project. And McCandles comes and observes a fully grown adult woman in her body. It's a full-bodied woman. But her brain is that of a toddler. So that's super interesting. And he wonders, and he's like, oh, where did she come from? How did this happen? And he has a lot of questions about Bella. And us as the audience also have a lot of questions about Bella. I mean, going in, did you realize that she was reanimated, or was it kind of a mystery?
No, from the commercial, I got the fact that she would be a reanimated person. That's why the Bride of Frankenstein came to mind.
Oh, absolutely. So what I think is super interesting, and I'd love to get your opinion, because the book does go more into this than the movie does. But so in both the the character of Bella Baxter, which is, I forget her real name, the real person's name, is pregnant, and she is pregnant by a very abusive man named Alfie, who is played by Christopher Abbott, who we meet later in the film and is a scene stealer, I would say. So she gets pregnant, and she is so miserable, and she does not want to have this pregnancy, so she ends up killing herself. And then Goodwin Baxter comes along, and he finds her dead body, her pregnant dead body, and he goes, no. And what he does is he takes the brain of her fetus and implants it into her head and then reanimates her body. Crazy.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and then like they show like his house, and he has like the head of a pig on something and the head of a chicken. So like this guy experiments with life like there's no tomorrow.
And it also is implied that he was experimented on. We see him like burping like these weird gas bubbles. His face is like, looks like it's been ripped apart and put back together again. Like, yeah, I wish, no, I did not finish the book, and I feel like the book did have more of Goodwin's backstory, but I wish the movie went a little bit more into Goodwin. One thing I love about this is how she refers to him as God. And because, like, I mean, to her, he is God, but he's also a father figure, and like, I don't know. So I thought that was very interesting. How like we always claim that doctors play God, and then here's this one like God-like actual figure.
Yeah, like again, like for me, it went back to Frankenstein, because there's a part in Frankenstein where one of the professors says, "You're trying to play God, and you're not God," and then Frankenstein says, "But I created life.
But I created life, and I am God." Like, and I think that's so interesting. So I really do like how they refer to him, how she refers to him as God. So now we have the story of Bella. Now Bella has the brain of a toddler, but she is in the body of a woman. So she is trying to figure out what's going on with herself. She's figuring out her own autonomy. She's figuring out her place in the world. She's figuring out the world. And it is really beautiful. It's also super interesting in the way that these men react to her, right? Because you see that Mark Ruffalo only really likes her when she is this like kind of like innocent, like childlike, and when we see her trying to like break away from that and like get friends and like read and get away from him and away from what he wants, we see him crumble within that, because his whole identity was like how much she loved him. And it wasn't like anything more than that. He was not enough of a person within himself. He was a gambler. I mean, he was hilarious. Mark Ruffalo put his all into this film. I thought he was awesome. But he was kind of this like philanderer, gambler, kind of like flitted around. And like he liked Bella because like all they did was have sex, and all she wanted to do was have sex. And she just wanted to like be there to like please him and do this and like, and not really have a life of herself outside of what he wanted. And I think when you see her breaking away from that and seeing him crumble within that is so interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And this is my reference to My Fair Lady.
Ah, yes.
Yes, because without the sex, in My Fair Lady, so Rex Harrison, he makes this street urchin into a lady, and he always looks at her as a street urchin. Even when he makes her this lady and everybody like is adorned with her, he views her only as a street urchin. And I thought that was the thing with Mark Ruffalo, where he just views her as someone that he can, mold and manipulate his way. And when she doesn't do that, he doesn't know how to do, and he crumbles.
He does. And I think it's so interesting of like how men assume that like women are here for them, right?
100%, and that goes back into My Fair Lady.
And goes back into My Fair Lady.
When Rex Harrison sings, "Why can't a woman be more like a man?"
Exactly.
And, it's because, well, men are pigs.
Men are disgusting. And I think we see that, and I love this movie because we really see that. And I think what this movie does well, and what it should have stuck to, was like showing Bella's relationship with people in the world and like how it evolves, right? Because you see like someone not like secure like McCandles. McCandles is still insecure, but you see someone like McCandles who is engaged to Bella, but understands in this developmental point in her life, like a teenager develops and rebels and has to leave the nest, Bella has to do the same thing. Like we're literally watching someone grow up. Like her body has grown, but she is growing up.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you saw Frankenstein.
Yeah.
All right, so in Frankenstein, when he first comes out, he has the mind of a child. He
Exactly.
He doesn't anything. And when the little girl's throwing the flowers into the water, he he thinks it's beautiful, so he thinks the girl's beautiful, so he throws her. He doesn't intentionally
because he doesn't
try to kill
understand.
her. Yes, and same thing with Bella.
She doesn't understand, but she learns just like Frankenstein. It's a little different because in this film it is very much focused on Bella's learning through reading and friends, but also through sexual exploration. This movie is very sex positive. If you can't watch sex scenes, don't watch this movie. There's a lot of them. And I mean, and it's done well, and I like get it. And I feel like I could have cut out some of the montage in the brothel.
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially like when the guy comes and he's teaching his children.
Oh my God, that scene made me uncomfortable.
I was like, yeah, I don't really like this. I was like, this is kind of not cool.
I didn't like that, but like things I liked was like, she's like talking to the guy and she's like, okay, I'm going to tell you a joke and then you're going to tell me a joke and then we're going to laugh and then that laugh is going to make us bond and then that will make our connection strong. Like I liked things like that. Like that, they could have had more in. The thing with the kids, so weird, so unnecessary. There's actually also a deleted scene that I had seen, which I really wish they kept in. And what it is you see Doctor coming in to give pap smears and examinations to all the women in the house. Because obviously, it being a brothel, and I loved, and I wish they kept this in because it shows like that you can still be like sex positive and like get the care that you need, and you don't really see that in films. So I was kind of mad for one respect that they kept that scene out, and then on the other, you see Bella questioning the doctor, being like, "Why is it on the woman to make sure that she's clean? Why can't we test the men before they come in here?" And he's like, "That's not how the world works. Like, man can do what he wants. Like, women has to like have the repercussions of that." And like you see Bella kind of fight back against this, and you see her really question it, and I think it's really imperative and really like developmental for her because like she's understanding the unfairness and like the inequalities like of the world in that sense, especially since the movie is so based in sex. And I'm only bringing this up because I find the Alexandria scene to be incredibly jarring when she's like sees like all the poor people and she's like, "Oh, I'm going to take all my money." Now I know it's a plot point to get to give away all her money so she ends up at the brothel. I understand how stories work. But what I'm saying is I felt like that scene felt very like pandering and kind of like half-hearted and didn't really feel fully fledged out to me. It felt racist and I don't know, it felt egregious. It didn't make sense in the film.
No, it didn't. To me, I think they were trying to get like us to look at this like a post-apocalyptic world because like Alexandria was really terrible. Like it was all broken down and it was like destroyed. And I think that was kind of their motif was to make people make it like the Greeks had become basically nothing after an apocalypse, and they were just like dying, and like the babies are dying, the women are dying, they're starving. There's no helping them. I think maybe he was trying to make a point with that, like with the world. But he
was, and he was saying like, look at these third world countries, they don't have what you have. They're all poor and dying, and like that's the pain in the world. And it's like, yes, that is the pain in the world, but then this kind of like shallow, hollow idea of like, obviously she's still growing, but like this hollow idea of just taking and throwing money at the problem, I feel like is very what we're seeing today. Like there's no actual push for change. It's like, oh, I'll just throw money at this and see what will come and be.
Yeah, like a pull-off Band-Aid.
Yeah.
It's not going to last, and once it comes off, if you don't really treat it, then the infection's just going to grow.
Yeah, it just to me that scene felt very it felt like I didn't need it. I felt like you could have shown pain and suffering in the world in a different way, and then later in the film you cut out a scene that directly shows part of her growth, because we see her growth later, like when she leaves, when she comes back to God's, and because he's dying, when her husband or who he thinks is his wife, Christopher Abbott, comes back and tries to like control her and bring her back to like where he is, and he's like, and then she like kills him and makes him a chicken. Like I love that. Like I don't know, I felt like it could have been one thing, and then that scene kind of derailed it. I don't know why I'm harping on it. I'm sorry guys, I'm harping on it.
No, I get it, because like all right, I'm gonna go back to My Fair Lady. There's a part when Liza leaves the house, and the guy says, "I love you," and she's like, "Show me." She's like, all these words, everything you're saying doesn't matter. Show me. And it's a good song. It goes into like the details about like, what you're saying means nothing. You have to actually show me. And
Yeah.
I think that was the whole situation with like the money. It's like, yeah, you could throw money at that situation, but unless you actually do something about it, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you got to show me. Show me.
Exactly. So I thought that was, I agree completely, and I think that's really interesting. Film is beautiful. I will say I have been watching Yorgos's films for a while. I think his style is absolutely incredible. I am a big fan of his. I find sometimes his story points to be a little weak. If you know me, I talk about it all the time. We've been talking about the weak story points here. But it's stylistically stunning film. He loves a good fisheye. I love the way that the world changes so in this film, the world changes from black and white to this kind of like insane technicolor and this kind of progresses as we see Bella's like development and we see her like understanding the world, which I think is so cool and so beautiful. And I really appreciated that. And I loved the costuming was gorgeous. I love like this like long ass black like weave that she wore, like this long hair. She looks so cool. Like I love that she goes to medical school. So back to the book. Now the book is incredibly interesting. I would love to know if any of you guys have actually finished the book or have just read half of it like I have. But one thing that's really cool, Ben, and we're just going to spend a little time talking about it, is that in the foreword of the book, it implies, now I don't know if this is fictional and I fell for a trick, but it implies that the story is true. It implies that there was actually a woman who was reanimated with the brain of her unborn child, because it follows the series of letters between the doctor and his lawyer being like, how protected am I? And then all these documents, and there's actually a marriage certificate found for Bella Baxter, who was a doctor who also changed her name. It was very interesting. Like, what do you think? Do you believe?
You know what? You never know. I mean, they say fiction's based off fact.
That's true.
So you never know. I mean, could it be done with technology and knowledge? I mean, I don't see why it couldn't be done. I mean, there is possibilities here and there for everything. I mean, could Frankenstein be done? I don't know. I mean, do I want it to be done? Supposedly they have the brains of ex-presidents and ex-leaders in a storage facility somewhere. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying it's true, but that's what they say. So you never know.
You never know. I just thought that was so interesting. But yeah, this film is very, very pretty, very funny. Mark Ruffalo, hysterical in it. He really, it's like a role, like he kind of talked about it in his like Oscar kind of like circuit, but he's like, oh, this is a role I don't really take. And it isn't. Like, he's very outlandish, very over the top, very misogynistic, but very, very funny.
Yeah, 100%. Like, if you watch this movie, you're going to be like, wow, he put on a great performance. I mean, it was a great performance all around. Like I said, if you honestly have a problem with sex, you're not going to like it. I don't have a problem with sex, so I thought it was really well done. I was just like, wow. I mean,
it's just a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. But you know what? To get the point across, I get it. I mean, it was a learning experience for the person that was basically in a child's mind. And, you know, I mean, like I said, if you watch Frankenstein, if you watch My Fair Lady, you watch the transformations that these characters go through, you'll relate to this movie. You'll be like, wait a minute, I can see these movies in this movie. I mean, there's 100% like Frankenstein, My Fair Lady vibes to this. I mean, and it was great. I really liked that.
Yeah, it is great. And what I love too, it's all about women getting autonomy over themselves and finding their place in the world and figuring out, are they more than these men who claim to have made them? And I think that is a theme that you see, like Ben had said, in My Fair Lady and in Bride of Frankenstein and in Poor Things. Because you see these women, you see these men entitled to these women because they're like, oh, I gave you X, Y, and Z. And these women being like, no, you helped me. You saw something in me, and what was that? You saw something in me that you thought you could own and control. No, I am my own person. And I think they bring that and they kind of rebel against these men. And I think to see that, I love to see that, because I don't believe that anyone is better than anyone else. I don't believe anyone should have power over anyone else in any situation. In this situation, of course, it's man over woman, but like, again, like a woman over a man, like I don't believe anyone should feel like they are less than or controlled by someone else.
Yeah, 100%. Like in the movie, her ex-husband, when they're in the house, he's like, "You're mine, and you're not gonna leave, and I made you." And then back to My Fair Lady, there's a part where they just came back from a ball, and Pickering and the doctor are singing a song. You did it, and they're bragging about how they accomplished this. And in the background, you see Audrey Hepburn kind of staring at them, like, no,
I did it.
And the same thing with Bella Baxter. There's a part where like they're like, "Oh, we made you," and she's like, "No, I made myself."
Yeah. And it's so interesting because you see her being like, and I will say, Bella has the utmost respect for God. She does. Like, that is her father figure. She has a lot of respect for him, and he always like respects. I mean, he kind of like, there's like this weird conversation when like they're talking about like respecting the boundary like of Bella, and he's like, no, like I very much view myself as like a father figure to her. And McCandles is like, oh, I don't, like she's hot. And it's like, and then Goodwin's like, oh, okay, you want to marry her? Like, it's kind of like weird. But Bella, like, but what is great is that Bella's like, I'm going to go off and I'm going to do this. Like, it's like, oh, I'm going to run away. But like, she tells them that she's running away. Like, it's like this very cute kind of like innocent thing. And then you see her grow. You see her learning. You see her reading. You see her going to school. And you see her developing herself outside of these men. And then the only one that accepts it is McCandles, and that's why he's the only one that sticks around.
I think the funny thing about that whole thing is, so whenever she's upset and mad, they chloroform her, and McCandles getting upset and mad in the room because she's leaving, and she chloroforms her.
Which is so funny. And then you kind of see how like every brain is unique and every person is different, because they try to do what they did with Bella with another girl, Felicity. This is played by Margaret Qualley, and she is just not as good. She's very much on, her brain is a little bit more slower to develop. She is taken in by Bella at the end, but you kind of see McCandles and Goodwin very much struggle with like, oh, Bella was so special. We really like, she was able to progress like so quickly, so well. And you see Margaret Qualley's Felicity kind of just like very much struggling, giving herself a bloody nose and like finger painting with that blood on the wall, like not being able to catch a ball and kind of having it just like bounce off her head. I do want to talk very quickly about the housemaid of the movie, and how she kind of just like was around all this ridiculousness, and how she kind of had like no sympathy or compassion for these girls.
Yeah, no, she didn't. She at one point she goes, "Oh, the slut's back."
I thought that was so funny. I loved how Goodwin and Bella kind of talked to each other. I loved how they wrote those letters back and forth to each other. I thought there was like a lot of care taken with that. And it really developed like their relationship, and it showed like how she did have this like great like support, but she still was able to do what she wanted. And I think watching her understand being trapped in a situation, and watching her understand like, oh, this isn't what's good for me, and like seeing how she problem solved to get out of it. And then at the end, when she's like drinking martinis and reading her books, and she's surrounded by her friends, and she's like finally happy, and she's a doctor. Like, I love that.
Yeah, I honestly thought she was going to take the doctor's brain and put it in her ex-husband.
Oh my God.
The way they let it, like, I honestly thought that was going to happen so she could keep the doctor around. But then, like, I thought it was even funny that she made the guy a chicken. So.
I love that she made him a chicken. So this movie, incredibly stylistic, incredibly sexy. I don't know. Great though. Now, have you seen other Yorgos Lanthimos films?
No, I have not.
You didn't see The Favorite?
No, I did not.
I'm gonna list some more. The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yep. Nope.
Dogtooth.
Still no.
Okay.
But if you want to do a review on him, we can do a review on him.
We could. I like a lot of his films. We can, and we'll talk off air about what we can do next. But I would. He's a Greek director, so his name is Yorgos. His cinematographer is also named Yorgos, so I think that's very funny. The sets, I think, was beautiful. The production design of this was beautiful. He really does create these like incredible, like fantastical kind of like surreal worlds, and I think that's one thing he really does well. The favorite, of course, is based much more in realism. I am thinking a lot of like Killing of a Sacred Deer and Dogtooth, both crazy movies.
Yeah, like I said, we could probably like do them. I mean, I'm more than willing. You know me. Like, just throw it out there, and I'm ready.
I know. We'll watch. We literally do watch anything. Maybe we'll wrap it up on Oscars. I mean, what's left? We still have Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest, which I would do both of those. But
yeah, it's up to you. Like when we get off the air, we'll talk about it. 100%.
Yeah. But definitely check out this film. Don't watch it with your parents or anyone who's prudish. There's boobies everywhere.
Everywhere.
No, I will say I saw it with a good friend of mine, and ooh, so sorry, I'm dying. We were both kind of taken aback by how much sex there was. Not in a prudish way, just in a way like, oh, that more sex, which is fine, and it is part of development, and it is part of like sexual liberation. It is a way that you can show a woman's liberation is through how she expresses herself sexually. Not saying that more sexually free women are more liberated than not. That is not what I'm saying. If you feel safe and comfortable and you are living the life that you want to live, then you are liberated. As long as you're being truthful to yourself and those around you and you're not harming anyone, then you are who you are. I was just saying, simply in this film, the more sexually liberated Bella becomes, the more autonomous she becomes and the more free she becomes.
Oh, yeah, 100%. There's the part where she's used to having sex with men, and then, was it Sweeney?
Yeah, then she has sex with a lady, and she's like, oh, I love this.
Yeah, and then she has it with Toinette.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's just expressing herself. Like, it's like when you're a little kid and you first experience, like, riding a bike, and it's like, you know, you just enjoy it so much, you want to do it over and over again because you just love that sense of freedom. Like, and that's what I felt with her. She just felt like a sense of sexual freedom.
Exactly. And in this film, her sexual freedom and her actual freedom are they are mirroring each other. They are hand in hand in this. Not saying in real life that they go hand in hand, but it is live the life you want to live. Follow Bella's lead and live the life you want to live and be a free little bird.
Dare to be different, like our
Dare to be
says.
different.
Dare to be different, baby.
Or like the housekeeper says, the slut is back. Like, do what you want, you guys. I love that. I really did like this film. It took me a while to really, I think, appreciate it more. There are some story points, like we had talked about, that are not my favorite. But I find with Yorgos, I get that often. Stylistically, though, 10 out of 10. Watch.
Yeah, and there's like great characters in it. There's Martha Van Kurtzak. She was great, the character. And then Harry Ashley.
Oh,
the
yeah.
The one that takes her to Athens. So there's a lot. And he even says in one part where after he goes to Athens, he's like, I wanted to show you that to destroy your innocence.
Yeah, and he's like, and I wanted to hurt you. And he was like, I was so mad at like your point of view of the world that I wanted to bring you down to my level. Now, I have a lot of issues. Thank you for bringing this up. I did not bring this up earlier. I have a lot of issues with this in the character of Harry Astley. It is played by one of the only people of color. Like, we have like only two people of color in the film. One of them being Jared Carmichael, who plays Harry Astley. Now, Jared Carmichael, fantastic actor. He plays this fantastic character. But when he goes to Alexandria, again, it goes into the Alexandria scene. It is like this kind of, like you said, he wants to just hurt Bella and bring her down. And it's like, okay, that's fine. You want to show that there's pain and suffering in the world, but why does it have to come from this character? Like, why can't we have like this character? Like, because it felt so out of character for him, to me. It was like, I understand that you're angry, and I understand that you're hurting, and I understand that you're looking at this white girl who has all this privilege and everything and can just like flit around and nothing's a problem, and like you want to show her pain. I understand that, but it's like, I feel like the older woman should have gone with them. I feel like it could have been handled better.
Yeah, I agree. It was like they were trying to explain her naivete.
Yeah.
Like to show that like maybe it was like a reference to the world, like how the white world views the world.
No, I mean, it is, because then she's just throwing money at the problem, not really understanding it, not getting down to help, not really doing anything to change like anything. And it's just like, oh, there's so much pain and suffering and I'm going to throw money at the problem.
Yeah, I think that was just like, them showing like how the white world views problems. Like if we just throw money at it, it'll go away, and it doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away. But then it's like also like, why do we have to have people of color show us these problems? Because we should be in tune to everything that is going on around us. Like, I don't know. So interesting, kind of a here and gone scene that really had no explanation after. Kind of just was like, oh, she wants to know pain and now she's a prostitute. Like, it was just like, you know what I'm saying? It was just like, I don't know. It could have been done better, especially when you watch the deleted scene with the doctor.
Yeah, I thought nothing was funny was she gave the money to the bellhops, and they looked at each other. And
they're like, oh, we're rich. Fuck yeah.
They're like, we're not giving that to the poor. I think that goes... I'm not trying to bash things, but I think that goes to a lot of charities. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to give this money to charity. But like a lot of the charities don't give it back to the people. And like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to bash charities, but you see it all the time.
No, that's why I always believe you really have to do your research on what charities you donate to, because like Ben was just saying, a lot of them, it's like 90% of their profits go into the pockets of their CEOs and like things like that, and only 10% goes to the funds that they're raising for. So always when it comes to things like that, please do your research. I know it's hard. I know it's tedious. I know it's like we're in a world where it's like you have to do your research and you have to give money, but you can't give money to the wrong people. And we live in this like paradoxical kind of society where it's really hard to figure out like trying to do the right thing, but how do you ethically do the right thing? And like you think you're doing the right thing, but you're not. And it's like it can be very hard. It can be very confusing. It can be very frustrating. But everyone's in the same boat, and we're all trying to make the world a better place.
100%. And you're going to get a lot of stuff from this movie, like symbolism, and like you're going to derive it and be like, oh, I see what they're talking about in this podcast. So watch the movie and listen to our podcast, and then you'll see what we're talking about. And maybe you got different values or different ideas, and you can tell us. Just reach out to us on any platform, message us, and we'll answer.
Oh, yeah, we'd love to hear. I would love to hear if anyone also has finished the book, and if I should finish the book, because as I've said, I have not. It's incredibly dense. But like Ben was saying, we'd love to hear from you guys. We are really trying to cultivate this kind of like community and this little family. You guys listen to us. When we listen to you when you write in. We love hearing everything you guys have to say. So please, please, please like, hit subscribe, write in, and catch us next time on Woz Happening.